Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news, and sometimes reviews. In this video, we're taking a look at the Rode Podmic USB and I guess comparing it with the ElectroVoice RE20. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, if you're watching this video, you're probably already interested in the Rode Podmic USB. And if you are, well, you may have come to the right place, you may not, I don't know here. To be fully honest with you, I'm not an audio expert. I know a little bit, but at the same time, there are some people who are far more knowledgeable than I am and who have far more technical equipment to test this stuff out. I would say this is a regular, everyday user testing out this microphone to see how it sounds. And I'm comparing it to the one I normally use on this channel, and that's the ElectroVoice RE20. Now, for reference here for the ElectroVoice RE20, for those who may not be familiar with it, it's an incredibly expensive broadcast microphone. It is very well known throughout the industry for being a very solid, very good performing microphone. It's a dynamic microphone, not a condenser microphone. It does require some gain in order to work. So I do have it plugged into a cloud lifter and then into my PC via a Focusrite Scarlett Solo, and this is a Gen 3. So taking a look here at the overall setup I've got, it's not necessarily the cleanest setup or the best setup, but it's a setup that works. And currently I don't do any audio processing on this microphone. This is how the microphone sounds normally. I like how this microphone sounds, and that's why I use it. I don't like tinkering around with settings, trying to have something set up specifically perfect for my voice, and then trying to set it up again later. Honestly, I'm more of a set it and forget it kind of person. And this microphone and this setup kind of fits my bill. However, with that being said though, what's really interested me about this Rode Podmic USB is that whatever settings you change within Rode Central stay within this microphone. So you can technically set it and forget it. Do all your changes once it's saved within the microphone. You can plug this microphone into any system and it'll sound the exact same the way you set it up. And that is extremely attractive. Also, the fact that it can do XLR, but it's also USB. And that's the part that I'm most interested in, and that's what I'll be testing is the USB-C connection. Honestly, here I'm looking for convenience and portability, and the Rode Podmic seems to check all those boxes. Now, some people may say, you know what, that's not necessarily a fair comparison, and I would say you're kind of right. The ElectroVoice RE20 is a $450 microphone paired to the cloud lifter at like $150 give or take. And the Scarlett Solo just over $100 at, I think it's like $110 right now. You've got an over $700 setup versus the $200 Rode Podmic USB. And that's where I think this Podmic USB may shine or it may not, depending on your ears here. And I can compare it as well to the Blue Snowball Ice just for fun. And this is a budget pick and also an older mic. So throughout this video, you've been listening to me so far with this ElectroVoice RE20, and I'm fairly close to the microphone. I'm just a few inches off the microphone. This is how the microphone sounds a little further away and a little closer to me. And I will say my room that I'm in right now is not sound treated very well at all, which is one of the reasons I go for dynamic microphones, just to help reject the overall echoes and everything in this room. It's not set up well. Anyways, here I'm going to switch over to that Rode Podmic without any changes to it. And now you're listening to me through the Rode Podmic USB, and I've done no audio processing on this whatsoever. This is how the microphone sounds out of the box. I might adjust the gain on either the ElectroVoice RE20 or the Rode Podmic just to try to level them off and make them sound at the same volume. But aside from that, I haven't done anything to change the overall quality of the audio. It does include a windscreen here that I haven't put on yet, or a pop filter, I guess. And I will be putting that on because I have pretty bad plosives, and that's why I talk with the microphone off axis just a little bit. Because if I get up right on this and say, Peter Piper, you're going to hear those plosives, and it's not necessarily easy on the ears. So I'm going to put this on and we'll continue on. All right, so here's what I sound with the windscreen or pop filter on this microphone. I don't know if it's changed the audio at all. You can let me know in the comments below. You can let me know your thoughts as this video progresses. Again, this is a relatively unscientific video. I just wanted to show you what this thing sounds like in real life application. What I'm going to do now is open up the Rode Central app and start fiddling with settings. So at the time of filming, here's what Rode Central currently looks like. You may see different versions of Rode Central floating around. It gets updated quite frequently, and it may look and feel a little bit different depending on when the video was created. So at the time of filming here, this is what Rode Central looks like. Processing is currently turned off. I'll turn it on, and you can probably hear the microphone completely change in overall sound. And there are some easy settings here. This is just basic processing, but we've got sparkle, depth, and punch. So by default, depth seems to be set to 80. So I can crank that right up to 100, and this is what it sounds like. And I'm going to put that down to 0 here, and you can hear the difference in the overall sound. Sparkle, this is what it sounds like at 24%. I'm going to turn that down to 0 to see any sound difference. And I'm going to crank that up to 100 to see if you hear a sound difference at all, or I guess hear if you hear a sound difference. I'll put that to 50. I'll put depth to 50 here. And punch, I'm going to crank that up to 100 to see if you hear a difference in the overall sound, and I'm going to crank it back down to 0 to see if you hear an overall difference in sound. And what I'm going to do is just leave it at 50, and let me know how you think with these 3 levels set at 50. What setting do you think made the most difference? What setting surprised you? When I click on advanced, I can tinker around even more here, and they say my settings will be reset, and that's fine. That's exactly what I want to do. So we have even more options here. We've got noise gate, we've got compressor, we've got aural exciter, and we've got big bottom. The only thing not turned on is noise gate, so I'll just turn that on and see if it changes the overall sound on this microphone. Again, these are just default settings. We'll have to wait and see when we start tinkering around to see what really makes an impact. And the whole purpose of this is just to go through this and see how this microphone sounds under different settings. And if you can get it to a place where you think it sounds great without spending a whole lot of money. So the first thing here we're going to play around with is big bottom. Big bottom is turned on, and that's kind of the bass on the microphone, the boom. My voice has enough of it already. Sometimes I do have to tone that down a little bit so it's easier to hear and not muddy and muffled. Let me know your thoughts about big bottom turned off and big bottom turned on. And we can even play with it here. We can change how big bottom sounds overall. Change the overall. That's probably going to sound pretty bad. But I can turn it down here. I can crank it up. There's a lot of different things you can play with here to really change how this microphone sounds overall. The aural exciter is the next thing we're going to take a look at here, and we can turn this one on and off fairly easily. I mean, it's just a toggle. And one thing I like about Rode Central, again, I'm not an audio engineer. I'm not a sound engineer. And well, this is really helpful for me. It explains exactly what each one does. And it's really simple just to play around to get the sound that you're looking for. So let's head into the aural exciter here, and we can change a few different things. So I'm going to turn this one down to see if it changes anything. I can crank up the harmonics. Let me know how this sounds overall. I can also crank up the tune, and let me know how this sounds when it's up all the way to the top. Or just don't let me know. Just think about it yourself maybe, because that'll be a whole lot of comments trying to get through. But taking a look here, there are a ton of things to adjust, and you can have quite a bit of fun playing around to get the sound you're looking for. And that's one thing I like about this microphone. I think I've said that before. The next thing we're going to check out is the compressor. So the compressor is currently turned on, and I'll turn it off to see if it makes a difference at all. Now, my voice is, I don't want to say monotone, but it's not all over the place here. I don't have high highs. I don't have super low lows. It's kind of in a nice pocket, at least in my opinion. I don't know here. I'm going to turn the compressor back on, maybe try to talk a little bit more lively. But anyways here, this is the compressor overall, and you can change a lot of stuff. You can crank the gain on this one. I think this is going to be one of the huge settings here as to whether or not it's going to affect how this compressor functions. But you can play around quite a bit. I've been saying that a lot. I'm repeating myself because I'm just continually trying to talk so you hear how this mic sounds. I do apologize for that. But I also don't, because this is a review of the microphone and everyone's taste will differ. And the last setting here we'll play around with is the noise gate. So it's currently turned on. I'll turn it off and maybe you'll hear a difference, maybe you won't. I'll turn it back on. You can adjust it if you want here. I'm just going to leave it as is. But there's quite a bit. That range is really high. Maybe I'll turn it down and see if it makes a difference. I don't know. Again, I'm not an audio engineer and I'm not monitoring my audio actively here, so I have to see everything in post and see if it works. But this is the difference. I might have done this whole recording for nothing. Anyways, here the noise gate is on, and all of these settings are, feel free to screenshot if you wanted to compare with your own setup. But here is the current settings of the microphone that are going to save to the microphone. So when I disconnect this microphone and, I don't know, plug it into like an Android phone or a different computer altogether, this microphone will sound the exact same. And I've already tried that by plugging it into different devices. And now I'm back on the ElectroVoice RE20 just to give you a good comparison on how these mics sound. Again, no processing has been done to this ElectroVoice. This is how the microphone and the setup sounds out of the box. I like how this microphone sounds. It's got a very warm characteristic to it. And I think it complements my voice a-okay here. So let me know your thoughts between the ElectroVoice RE20, a $700 plus setup. You can probably do it for cheaper, and the Rode Podmic USB for $200. And as a bonus here, I'm going to plug in the Blue Snowball Ice and see how that sounds. And now you're listening to me through the Blue Snowball Ice. Now this microphone is significantly different than the ElectroVoice RE20 and the Rode Podmic. I mean, first and foremost, this is a condenser microphone. And secondly here, this microphone is significantly cheaper. This mic is between, I think, 60 and 70 bucks depending on where you get it. Or you can buy it secondhand probably for pennies on the dollar. But this is how this one sounds. Since it's a condenser, it's probably picking up more echo around the room. And for fun here, I'll try out a wireless mic just to show you the difference. So just for fun, this is the DJI Mic 2, and this is the wireless mic that I use when I'm out and about camping and outside. I think it sounds way better outside than inside. It's probably picking up a whole bunch of echo and noise in this room. It works great outdoors, but I would say not ideal indoors. And this one is a little bit more expensive. Well, the mic itself isn't very expensive. It's just the receiver you got to buy with it. So this is a wireless mic setup, I guess, compared with everything else. So there you have it. I'm back on the Rode Podmic USB, and I think this concludes the testing. Let me know your thoughts about the Rode Podmic USB in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on the price point in comparison with everything else we tested. Let me know your thoughts on the versatility, the processing, and also, I guess, the convenience. I only tested this in USB, but it can also do XLR. But anyways, that's about it for this one. I was going to try to say something else, but that's it. I was going to end it like I ended a news video. Let me know your thoughts on the Rode Podmic, and we'll go from there. Thank you, everyone. Take care.